Hey guys, Mike in the Woods here. It's been a long time coming, but this is finally the prep trip video for my 2-night 300-kilometer skate packing trip on my electric skateboard. I originally wanted to do this like a couple months ago, but unfortunately we were still heavily locked down here in Ontario. So I had to wait until things started to open back up again. I got both my vaccine doses, and by the time I go on this trip, which is about halfway through July, I'll be fully vaccinated. And it's important that I wait for things to open up because I need to be able to stop at places to charge the board and spend the night, get food, so on and so forth. This will be my first major backpacking trip on the board, if you don't count the solo overnighter that I did as a kind of a test trip. Link up at the top of the screen if you want to check that out. I'm so excited that I'm finally getting to the point where I can go on some actual skatepacking trips. Like, how long have I been making videos about this? And to date, I've only done one solo overnighter on the board. Like, I cannot adequately explain how excited I am to finally get out and do a real multi-day backpacking trip on this thing. So first up on the agenda, I want to go over the actual trip itself. Like I said, it's 2 nights, total of, it worked out to be, after I planned in charging stops, almost exactly 300 kilometers. I adjusted the map slightly so that I don't reveal my home address on the map I'm showing you guys. So it dropped it down to only 298, but I swear once it's mapped from my home and to my home as the final destination, it's exactly 300 kilometers over the course of 3 days. So obviously I have the daily totals of how much distance I'm looking to go over the course of the day, but in between charging stops I decided to refer to the periods of time spent traveling in between charging stops as legs. So essentially it's just a circular loop, more or less. It looks more like a wonky lopsided triangle. First night I'm traveling northeast all the way to the Woodland campground near Bobcaygeon. There's a chance that they might not have a site available, so that might change to a nearby campsite, or I might even end up having to stealth camp. I don't know. That's the longest day out of all 3 days of traveling. During day 1, from my house to the Woodland campsite that I want to spend the night, it's 121 kilometers. Given that all 3 of my electric skateboard's batteries have a total range that I've verified of around 50 kilometers, that's going to mean I have to do 3 legs that day. So I'm going to have to stop and charge twice throughout the day, and then once at my destination where I spend the night. For the first leg of day 1, I'm looking to make it to a pizza shop called Blackstock Pizza Town in Blackstock, Ontario. That is 47.7 kilometers. That's the first leg of the trip. The second leg is from that to yet another pizza place in a place called Omami, Ontario. That's another 36.7 kilometers from the first charging stop. And the final leg of the first day is going to be from there all the way to the Woodland campsite, which is an additional 37 kilometers. So hopefully the actual time spent charging will be less because I'm not going the full 50 kilometers. And if I cycle my batteries before they're actually empty and kind of load spread among all 3 batteries, I might be able to reduce the total amount of time spent charging at each stop. Because I believe the campsite registration they close at like 9 o'clock, so I need to make sure I'm there to get settled in before 9 o'clock at night. Which I want to get there before that anyways, because I don't want to be riding on backcountry roads in the dark. Alright, so that's it for day 1. On the second day, I only have 2 legs. Distance is much reduced over the first day. First leg is from that campsite all the way to Peterborough, Ontario, with a distance of 37.3 kilometers. And then from there, my destination for that night is a Comfort Inn in Cobourg, Ontario. That's a bit of a longer leg. That's 52.2 kilometers. In the event that my board runs out of juice, I might have to carry the board the rest of the way or work in an additional charging stop if I can find it. Luckily, I don't know if you can tell, but I've actually finally been going out on training hikes to get myself into shape, not just for skate packing, but for regular backpacking trips as well. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that I've never been in the greatest of shape, but I'm happy to report that before, at least 2 to 3 times a week, but now every day, I've been filling up this bag with all of my camping gear, like all of my skate packing stuff, the full 40-pound loadout, including water, food, my extra battery, all my chargers, everything. The complete 40-pound package. Been waking up at 6 o'clock every day, putting that on and going for a training hike that includes some single track dirt trail, paved bike paths, even a beach walk that goes from pebbles to sand, kind of work in a bit of everything. And it's a 6.5 kilometer training track I've been doing and I'm actually starting to get into decent shape. Like, I know I still have a bit of a gut, but I am down significantly compared to what I was like a couple months ago. Like, look at some of my older videos and you'll see the difference. The third and final day of the trip has 2 legs. First leg of the day, I'm going from that Comfort Inn in Coburg to a Tim Hortons in Newcastle, and that's 40.4 kilometers. And the second and final leg of the entire trip is from there home for a distance of 48.4 kilometers. When all those get added up together, that works out to be 300 kilometers in 3 days. Anyways, next up, we're gonna go through everything that's in my kit, starting with my board, and then the bag itself. If you want to compare that with my earlier version of my kit, I'll link that up at the top of the screen right now. There's been a few changes, few additions. See if you can spot the differences. Okay, so first up, helmet. Obviously super important when you're, especially when you're on an electric skateboard with really high speeds. I also got a GoPro mount on there, so I can show you guys some cool views while I'm actually on the board. So board itself, I did a detailed breakdown of the board build, so if you want to see me build it and test it, I'll link that up at the top of the screen. But just to give you a refresher of what this is, it's basically an onboard W2 electric skateboard kit strapped to a loaded Bangra V2 deck, chosen specifically because it's a really long deck, and that let me top mount the battery case and still give my feet plenty of room so it's not buttoned up against the battery case. And the reason I top mounted the battery case is super important because it lets me hot swap batteries. So in here I've got my 2 primary batteries. They're both 324 watt hours each, and out of just one of the batteries I can get roughly 20 kilometers. So I've got these 2 batteries here. There's nothing holding them in place. They're just sitting in there on the foam, held in place with the case. And once the battery runs out, I just stop, pop this case open, unplug one battery, plug in the other, close the case, and then I swapped a battery in about 30 seconds, as opposed to a traditional electric skateboard design where you gotta flip the board over, you gotta unscrew bolts through the deck so you can take the bottom case off very carefully, remove the old battery, put in the new one, put it back on, screw everything back together, and what could be a 30-second job with a top-mounted battery case turns into like a 20-minute affair. So if you have to do that multiple times a day for many days in a row, it's gonna piss you off super fast. So that's why I went from the get-go and decided to top mount my battery case. So I got these 2 batteries here, and then I also have a smaller 3rd battery in my backpack in with my sleeping bag. It's only like 194 watt hours. It's nowhere as big as these guys. That smaller one, once I get into some even more crazier trips, will eventually be replaced with a 3rd one of these guys, giving me a max theoretical distance in between charging stops of about 60 kilometers. And as I continue to lose weight from hiking around and getting some practice in, that distance might actually increase, because the more you weigh, it has a significant impact on how much range you get out of your board. Yeah, nothing crazy going on under here. It's just 90mm street wheels, so I do have to stick to mostly paved trails, which is, I knew that going into building this board, but I did opt for that first, since a lot of long distance trips will mostly be along roads and bike paths and things like that. I do have plans to build an off-road board so I can go on some crazier backcountry, like more bikepacking gravel trails type thing. But for now, in the event that I do come to a, say I gotta hike through an area like this that's just like a single track dirt trail through the woods, or it's a gravel trail that's too rough for me to ride my board on, I will have to carry it. And because I'll have a 40-pound backpack full of gear plus my 25-pound electric board, that's why I've been training so intensely, to make sure that if I do get these sections, I'll be able to handle it without basically getting my butt kicked. Okay, let's go through everything that's in the bag. So first up, on the very top, I've got my sit pad, which is held in place with one of those 3D printed carabiners that I was showing off in some of my earlier videos. Like I said, I use that to hold my sit pad in place in case it slips out of the meshing on top there. But its real purpose is for if I have to camp out somewhere in an area known for bears, then I can do a bear hang and not keep my food bag in my tent with me. And the reason I showed the sit pad first is because I'm going to need it to sit on the ground and go through this bag with you guys. Alright, so I'm going to move that slightly out of the way. I mean, I guess I could have sat on my board, but whatever. That's fine. This puts me more closer to you guys. Okay, so once this gets lifted off, normally my camera bag is sitting on top, but I have that popped out right now because obviously I have everything out to film me right now. But that's got the GoPro Hero 8 that's currently filming me right now. I've got my DSLR that you guys saw me do the beginning portions of this video with. I've got my mini tripod that the GoPro's on right now. I've got my Gorilla Pod. I've got my DJI Mavic Mini in there and the 3 batteries for it and the controller, all the cords I need. I really do need to do a separate video for that, like my entire filming bag setup for when I'm filming stuff. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me do a breakdown of all of my filming stuff, like in my filming bag, because I've accumulated quite a lot at this point. It's been really hard to pare it down to small but effective that I can take with me on backpacking trips. Oh, I know what to go through first. So something extremely specific to electric skateboards, or I guess any electric rideable, something applicable even if you're on an electric scooter, an electric bike, anything that needs to plug into a standard wall outlet to charge. Trying to find a outlet on the outside of stores and shops and things like that that actually have power so you can charge can be a pain in the ass. Last year, I had gone on just a little ride around the neighborhood while my fiance was doing some fitness stuff at an outside like fitness camp type thing. I decided to stop and charge for a bit, and I must have tried like 4 plugs on 3 different buildings before I found one that actually supplied power. And it was a pain to grab my bag off my back, tear everything out, plug in a charger, only to realize that the charger light wasn't coming on because there's no power being supplied to the outlet. So I thought of an ingenious solution to that. Just a simple little lightweight outlet tester that I can just quickly pull out of my pocket, plug it into an outlet. If it's got power, it'll light up the LEDs, and then I know that I can plug in and charge there. So that's going to save me a lot of heartache if I have to stop and charge in weird, sketchy places and I'm not sure if it has power or not. There's one YouTuber I watched a few videos of. His name's Tucker Doss. Super funny guy. And he was one of the original guys who got me on this path of skatepacking on an electric skateboard, because he's actually done a couple backpacking trips on a one wheel. And I know in a couple spots he would like fear coming up to an outlet and worrying that it wasn't supplying power. So if he had one of these, life might have been a little bit easier for him. But anyways, this is a very recent purchase. I tested it out on my outlets at home. I'm going to be very happy I have this on this upcoming trip. So on the outside, I've got my keys clipped about shoulder height. The most important thing on here is my whistle that I 3D printed. So if I get myself into a spot of trouble, I don't have to go digging through my pocket or my pack to find it. It's literally just there. I can reach down, grab it, and go and call for help. I've got my water bottles on here. I've actually got them filled up right now so that I don't dehydrate while I'm out here filming. Oh, it's still cold. Nice. So I've got a Powerade bottle in there. I've got a Powerade bottle in here. I've got a Powerade bottle here, and I've got a 1 liter Nalgene bottle here, full of water as well. So in total, I have approximately 3 liters of water at max carrying capacity. I don't think I really need that much throughout the legs of my trip because I'll pretty much be in areas where I can water up at any time. But it's there for sake of mind. And then if I do come to a water source where I need to fill up at, I've got my Katadyn. The bag for it is tucked in here. Also on the outside, I've got just my crummy little bug net, because the bugs actually get quite bad sometimes, especially when you're flying down the road at 35 kilometers an hour and there's like gnats everywhere. They're just pinging off of my face. So this is my solution to that. It's just a crummy little head net that goes over top of my hat and stops the bugs from getting into my face. It's also good if I'm at camp. Like say right now, I'm actually surprised there's not a lot of mosquitoes bugging me. I mean, they're biting my back right now, but they're not all up in my face. So this would be useful for that. And it weighs like nothing. It's worth including in a kit. I spoke too soon about the fucking mosquitoes in my face. On the bottom, I've got my tent. So same one-man battle box tent that I've been using in all of my solo backpacking type trips. It's basically a glorified coffin. Like I can't even sit up in it, but it's the lightest, smallest tent that I have, so that's what I use. I've gotten used to it, but it can definitely be a little stifling at times. So most importantly, I no longer use the rain fly with it because the zipper on it's busted, and I wanted to give myself a bit more of a dynamic set of options. So I now have an AquaQuest tarp that I use in place of my rainfly, I actually haven't tried setting it up over top of the tent yet, and that's part of the reason we're out here today, is I'm gonna pitch my tent and test that out. And I can basically use it in 2 configurations. I can put it directly on the tent as if it were a rain fly, clip it down to the tent pegs on one side, and pitch the other side out as like a really large vestibule. You'll see what I mean when I set it up later. Or I can pitch it like a standard A-frame over top of my tent when I have trees available like this, so that I have a little bit more breathing room. I could sit outside of my tent. I can keep my gear outside of my tent and just have a little bit more standing room outside of my tent. So I've got my rods, got my tent itself. Another thing that I'm doing is actually trying out 3D printed tent stakes. So I touched on these in some of my prior videos, but essentially I've got 10 tent pegs here, all 3D printed, 9 of them made out of ASA, and I didn't have a 10th one, so I just grabbed the green ABS one I made. They are heavier than the aluminum stakes that came with it by like 80 grams or so, but I'm very interested in trying it out, and we'll actually be trying them out here today when I get my tent set up. All right, so also down here, got my sleeping bag with all of the various holes that I've had to patch up, because before I had my sit pad, I'd actually use my sleeping bag to sit on near the campfire, which turned out to be a really stupid idea because it got lots of burn holes from all the embers flying around. I mean, I patched them up with duct tape so that the stuffing doesn't leak out, and the sleeping bag still does its job without any issues, so it's fine. But I don't remember what this one's rated to, but I have successfully tested this on my own with the gear I have down to 3 degrees Celsius, and I've been okay throughout the night. So also in this section, I've got the small replacement battery that I was talking about. So also on the bottom here is, of course, as with any backpack, where I keep the PAX Rainfly. But I also have in here a very butchered and holy sheet that I use to cover my electric skateboard in the event that it starts raining or something and I'm unprepared for it. With my electric skateboard, obviously I can't ride it in the rain as it's not waterproofed, it's not water resistant in any capacity, especially because I built it myself. So if I'm at camp or somehow get caught unaware when I wasn't expecting rain but it decided to rain anyways, I need to be able to protect the board from the elements. So the plan, if I'm mid-riding, for example, is to stop, immediately grab this out of my pack and wrap my board in it to keep it dry, and I have no choice but to wait out the rain at that point. If it lasts a while, I guess I got a 0 wherever it is that I am. And that's also why you'll see that I don't have any sort of rain gear in here. I will for standard backpacking trips where it's just me, I'm not like relying on the board or anything, but for skate packing specific type trips, no rain gear, because I don't want to be out in the rain because of the board anyways, so there's no point in having one. It's dead weight. So on the outside quick access area, I've got all the stuff I'll need at a moment's necessity. So new to the kit that I haven't really had in my camp setups before is some actual hygiene items, because normally when I go on a backpacking or camp trip, I am a disgusting motherfucker until I get back to civilization. So I didn't bring any deodorant before, or in my case, antiperspirant, because I'm allergic to deodorant, or a toothbrush or toothpaste. So I just put together a simple, lightweight little setup here. So I took a standard sized toothbrush since I couldn't find a travel sized one. I took my Baco and I sawed it in half. A little tube of toothpaste, little antiperspirant, toilet paper for obvious reasons. Next up in here is wet wipes for obvious reasons. If I want to take like a camp shower or something and just give myself a bit of a wipe down to feel a little bit more human if I've been out in the woods for a couple days. But the primary reason it's in here, well, same reason as the toilet paper, I'll leave that up to your imagination. Got a paper copy of the map and daily itinerary for the trip. Got my cutlery, just a fork and a spoon, nothing crazy. Quick access snack in case I want to stop for a quick snack without having to tear into my food bag. I've got my, I guess you could call it a possibles pouch. It's a combination of my fire starting stuff and some water tablets. My 3-tier system for water purification is filter as the primary, water tablets as the secondary, and if all else fails, I can always boil water. So in here I've got 3 ways to start a fire. I've got my ferro rod as my primary, my lighter as my backup, and a set of matches as an emergency third option. A big old bumblebee or something buzzing me. I've got a paper map of Ontario as a backup in case my GPS drops out. I do have a paper copy. I've got my headlamp. And the last thing that's in this front panel here is gear for board maintenance and emergency repair. So on a belt-driven electric skateboard like the one I have, the most probable thing to happen in terms of damage or breaking is the belts on the belt drive. They're already starting to fray on my board now, so it's super important that I have backups. So I've got not one, but 2 replacement belts so that I can have up to 3 snap on me and still be able to make it home. All right, so if 2 snap, I can replace them. If a third snaps, I can disconnect the one motor and just use a 1 motor drive to get home. It'll be slow, but it'll still work. And then the last things that are in there are my skate tool for tightening all the bolts or undoing them if I need to swap the belts. And some of the bolts use a Allen key instead of any of the standard skateboard stuff. So I have my, I don't know what to call this, weird looking supersized Allen key. Man, I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes as I'm sitting here filming. Okay, so now to go through the main pouch and everything that's left in here. Got my puffer jacket because it does get cold at nights in some places, especially once I start going north on the first leg of the trip. It's going to start to get rather chilly at night. Last year I went on a camping trip with my buddy in June, which is only a 2-hour drive from where I am now, and it dipped down to 3 degrees that night, which is where I tested that sleeping bag, like I said. I always have this. I learned the hard way to always have my jacket with me on every trip, even in the dead of summer. Also for layers in here, I've just got a fleece sweater that I bought off one of my friends from the outdoors community. He sells a bunch of military surplus gear, so this is just a fleece jacket type thing that I picked up off him. Also in here, I've got a mini power bar that turns 1 socket into 3. So I've got 3 batteries, I need 3 chargers. This lets me have to source only 1 outlet in order to charge all 3 of my batteries simultaneously. And like I said, I've got 3 chargers in here, 1 for each battery, 2 fast chargers for the 2 big beefy batteries, and then just a standard charger for the little guy. So also in here, I have a little hard pouch. It's a bit of a mixed bag in here, but in here I've got my gas stove top that I just keep in here so that things aren't pressing down on it and warping the arms out of shape in that. I've got my USB cables for charging my phone and for charging my battery bank. I've got a battery bank here, I believe it's 10,000 milliamp hours. Oh no, it's 9,000 milliamp hours. So I can get about a charge and a half into my cell phone out of this. Actually, I don't know that for sure. I literally bought a new cell phone yesterday since I cracked the back of my old one. It might have a bigger battery on it because it's the Galaxy S21, so I might have to test that and see how much charge I get out of that. Also in here, I've just got an extra set of AAA batteries for my headlamp. Also in here, my age-old, been in literally every camping video I've been on, my camping cookware. All right, so I've got my coffee pot that I use, just a stainless steel GSI cup, and then I also have my stainless steel Stanley cooker. Eventually I will upgrade this to something titanium because it wasn't until I did that video on the 3 different metals, aluminum, steel, and titanium for cookware, that it really was made clear to me how much heavier stainless steel is compared to like titanium or aluminum. It's ridiculous how much heavier it is. So I've got 2 cans of gas. I've got a full one that I haven't opened yet, and then I've got this one, I think it's about half full at this point. And the idea is to always have 2 cans of gas on me, one that's actively being worked on, and then a full one. Once one gets emptied and I move on to the other, then I gotta find a place to recycle the empty one and grab a new one at the outfitters. Got my sleeping pad, the Klymit Static V insulated recon that I always use even in winter. It's a 4-season pad. I've used this in the dead of winter a couple times and never had any issues with it. It's not rated with the new standard of R value, but I have used it in winter and it does work really well, at least for me. So it's not the lightest option I could possibly have, especially for warm weather camping. I was going to replace this for warm weather use with a Z-Lite SOL closed cell foam pad, but it had only a 2.0 R value on it, and I wanted something that I could use for 3 seasons, especially where it's hot during the day and gets super cold at night. It's only 700 and somewhat grams for this. hasn't failed me yet, knock on wood. So I decided to keep the inflatable option. Now we're starting to get into the random crap towards the bottom of the bag. I've got a pair of shorts, my camp clothes set up for backpacking both on the electric skateboard and in standard backpacking. I'm going to have a pair of pants, which are the ones I'm wearing now, and a pair of shorts, at least during warm weather where it makes sense to have shorts. Right? So if it's hot out, you're not as warm as you might think when you're on the board flying down the road, because the wind chill actually keeps you quite cool in pants, even on a hot summer day like this. But if I need to do laundry at camp, I can wear one while I wash the other, and having a pair of pants and a pair of shorts gives me more options in what I wear. Got my cleaning cloth for cleaning out my cookware. I've got my little clothes bag in here, nothing crazy in here, just a change of t-shirt, a pair of socks, and a pair of boxers. Got my first aid kit. Got my little bag of cordage for tying down my tent and for a ridge line if I want to set my tarp up that way. Got my food bag. I've got about 3 days worth of food in here, so should be enough for the entire trip. I am going to go through it and just kind of refresh it and make sure I've got proper food in here, because I think I have eaten and drank a few things out of here since then. So I thought I had lost my lid for my Stanley, but it turns out it was buried in some dark recesses of my backpack here. So I actually found my lid for my Stanley. And that's it. That's everything that's in my complete skate packing loadout for going on electric skateboard backpacking trips. The only other thing that might be relevant is my multi-tool, which serves as my only cutting tool, which is on my belt. Okay, so next up, we're gonna pitch my tent and try out that tarp in different configurations. Let's do that. Alright, so obviously I need a place to set up my tent, so I think I'm gonna just kind of clear out all the twigs that are here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I definitely want to clear out any pokies that might puncture a hole in the bottom of the tent while I'm setting it up. You get out of there. Oh, one thing I didn't mention earlier, but as for footwear for this skate packing trip, I'm going to be wearing my trail runners, which are my Salomon X Ultras, and they'll probably do me a lot better than riding in my crappy Walmart shoes, because when I did the 50-kilometer range test, link up at the top of the screen, I wore my crappy running shoes from Walmart that had like no arch support, so my feet were killing me after that 50-kilometer trip. Footwear makes a ton of difference, man, no matter what type of backpacking you're doing. Alright, so let's get this thing oriented first. Alright, rod number one, rod number two. Alright, so that's the little guy, this is the big guy. Little guy goes towards the end here. Come on, get in there. Oh, something I should mention. The skate packing trip, while it is coming up fairly soon, it's not going to be the next trip video you guys see from me. I actually decided I have a more casual front country trip coming up with me, my fiance, and a couple friends, just out at Bass Lake Park. And there's some stuff I really want to try on that trip, and it's going to be fun and enjoyable. So normally I don't like filming casual front country trips because it's kind of boring for an outdoors channel. I don't think you guys are really interested in those sorts of things, but I don't know. I think this one might be interesting. I'll gauge your guys' reaction whether you watch the video and like it or not. But I'm going to bring my solar charger and try a full duration day charge of my electric skateboard battery, which I rode to get out here, and I'm actually avoiding charging it specifically because I want to get it super low so I can test the solar charger and make sure that it actually works entirely as designed. Oh, but this is good. I've done a lot of scripted videos lately. It's been a while since I've been able to do just a normal video where I can get out, do stuff, and talk to you guys without having a friggin' script read in front of me. Okay, I got the poles in. Now I gotta do my tent pegs. I'm gonna switch to the GoPro so you guys can watch me from a close range put those in. Okay, put one of these tent pegs in. How's it look? These tent pegs are printed completely solid. All right. Oh, a couple more tent stakes like that and we're good. There we go. That was easy. I think I miscounted the amount of pegs I need. There we go. Entire tent staked out with these 3D printed tent stakes. Here is the tent completely staked down with all of the 3D printed tent stakes. Like I said, it's not a very big tent at all. You can't sit up inside of it. Even at the highest point there, it's not enough for me to sit upright. I have to like kind of like prop myself up on my shoulders. I mean, for me, my only issue with it is that there's no room to do anything if the weather is crappy, right? So if it's raining, I need to be able to sit outside of my tent and do stuff like cook or just wait out the rain. And I can't do that in the tent because it's so small and tiny. And the rainfly did not give me any sort of vestibule to do that either. So that's part of the reason why I went with the AquaQuest tarp. Okay, so I horrendously miscounted how many tent pegs I need, and that's why it's important to get out here and test things out before you go on an actual trip, right? So I, for some reason, thought my tent only needed 6 stakes to stake it down. It actually needs 8. So I only have 1 extra stake after staking my tent down, and I need 4 for the tarp, assuming it's not tied off to trees on all the corners. I'll count that as one lesson learned. When I get home, I'll spin up a few more on the 3D printer at home. And see, this is why 3D printed gear is amazing. You need more, just go home, press the start button, got more tent pegs. Alright, so this was not a cheap tarp. This is still nylon. Anyways, the basic idea is this. Basically, have my tent underneath the tarp. This might actually work out a lot better than I thought. I was a little worried that this might not be the smartest idea, but I don't know. I'm increasingly optimistic. It's got a piece of wood here. It's going to make a quick and simple little tent peg and push you into the ground. Okay, so that's actually working out a lot better than I thought on this side. Now I just need to figure out what I'm going to do for the vestibule side that I need to be open, because this tree right here is actually in the way. What am I going to do here? Ideally, I wouldn't set up somewhere where this giant annoying tree is in the way. I don't know. Do I want to stake this out, or do I want to... What am I doing, guys? I don't even know. Mike sucks at knots, so he's just going to do a simple knot like this that he can use his multi-tool to tear down later. Okay, so that's one corner done. It's not the greatest job, but it'll do. I wonder if I could put this on the other side, and because there's a loop right here that I could probably tie off to this tree. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. And there's a corresponding line here. There. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's a setup. And it gives me a nice little vestibule here that I can get into my tent with. Okay, we got something. I've got some semblance of a setup. It's a bit janky because of the way it's tied off to trees and stuff, but this would work. This would hold off rain from hitting me. Biggest concern would probably be the front here. It's kind of lifted up a bit, but assuming I wasn't like head on to the wind in that direction coming in, I think I'd be fine from the rain. It's not pulled perfectly taut in a way that rain would roll off without pooling. Like there's a place towards the tip there that's got some pockets. Initial impressions, I think I definitely underestimated the total horizontal footprint that the tarp would need in this configuration, which is fine. I learned from that, but I think I know a way, with the way I set it up now, where I can get past that, because I don't have it pulled all the way on the farthest slot. Like the actual corner piece is over there, so I can adapt a little bit if I find myself in as claustrophobic a space as this, but it's fine. It gives me a nice kind of little area to deal with there. I ended up staking out this corner a little bit more from the corner of the tent, which is right there. I think from anything but like a crazy torrenting rain, I think this will be fine. Yeah, like this side is completely janky, but I think that'll be fine. Let's go for a test drive, shall we? All right, so it's not making the tent sag at all because it's resting on the actual ridge poles. Yeah, I don't like the tarp touching the actual sides of the tent because I'm worried water might seep through. It's actually not bad. I got a lot of space out here if I wanted to cook outside of my tent. Yeah. Lots of room here. I'm gonna set up a little gas stove here and cook away. And that's just with my janky little setup here. If I had it staked all the way out properly, I'd have a lot of space. I don't think I need to try and set up the ridgeline configuration because it's clear to me that this does exactly what I was hoping it would. All the ridgeline would do is just move it up off of the tent a little bit and give me more space to work with. So, lessons learned. Number one, I need to add a couple more stakes to my tent bag. The tarp takes up more of a horizontal footprint than I had originally imagined, but works great as a rainfly replacement. It's not even sitting on top of the tent at all. I really like it. I really like this setup. Obviously it has to be tested in rain still, but I think it'll hold up because this is an AquaQuest tarp. Like this is a pretty reasonable quality tarp. It's not its intended use, but most people use this just as the shelter itself, which is also an option that I have. If I'm like set up on rock or something where I can't pitch my tent, I can deal with the bugs, then I can just go with a tarp shelter, stake it down to some trees or something. So it gives me more options for how to set up my shelter. So yeah, I think this has been a successful test of the tarp and tent combo. Gave you guys a updated look at everything that's in my skate packing list for this upcoming 300-kilometer 2-night trip. But I'm really excited to bring you guys along on that upcoming skate packing trip. As time goes forward and the channel grows, I want to do crazier and crazier skate packing trips. And then obviously, if you're not new to the channel, you know that I am eagerly awaiting the Tesla Cybertruck. In addition to crazy electric skateboard skate packing trips, I'm also excitedly waiting for the Tesla Cybertruck because I want to be able to go on overlanding trips in the Tesla Cybertruck. Unfortunately, it's looking like the delivery is going to be delayed. Originally, they're looking to start production towards the end of this year, and being Canadian, we kind of get short end of the stick during the first deliveries. Earliest, I'm going to guess sometime about this time next year for my Cybertruck delivery. And yeah, that's the genesis of the channel, combining fun, futuristic technology with traditional outdoors experiences. If you guys are new and this is the first video of mine you've watched, check out my other videos and consider subscribing if that's your thing. Recently, I also rejigged my Patreon, so check that out if you want a fire in forget way to help out the channel. The lowest tier is $2 a month and goes up from there. I'm really trying to provide value to you guys if you want to subscribe. I'll leave a link in the description, so check that out. Yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Really looking forward to this upcoming trip. Next video you're going to see from me is a casual camping trip, and then after that will be the skate packing trip, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.